Hello, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to more CSGO news. As always, all of today's stories will be timestamped down below. Thank you all for the amazing weekend. If you guys did not know, I was streaming quite a bit, had a really fun time, but also this past weekend, some crazy stories did happen, and there were quite a few changes. As of today and tonight, there will be the roster lock, which does not mean teams have to announce, but most teams probably will, and there have been some big announcements this past weekend, the largest of which is probably Cloud9's newest fit member, which will be a temporary stand-in. That will be Zellsis from Swole Patrol. Now, I'm going to talk about Swole Patrol and their current standing right now, which is really up in the air. We'll talk about them in a couple minutes, guys. It will be Zellsis in place of many other recruits out there or potential players, one of them being Infinite. If you guys remember, we talked about that just last week. Potentially, it was his racial remarks brought up by Rickeh on Twitter, which I still think was a bit of a scummy thing to do. But again, a lot of us have to own up to our mistakes out there. I highly doubt that was the reason why they actually chose Zellsis over Infinite or other options out there. But if that was the case, that is quite unfortunate circumstances. We have to believe, though, in this case, it was probably the players who chose Zellsis. They were probably more comfortable with him or felt that he was probably the better option. So I highly doubt it was his past that caused them to choose another player over him. But if that was the case, well, that's incredibly unfortunate. But besides that, though, if there's any player out there in terms of comeback stories who deserve a chance like this, it is certainly Zellsis. If you guys do not know, a few months ago, he posted a long twit longer. I'll post it down below for all of you if you have the chance to read it. A TLDR for all of you. This guy has been through the brink and back. He lost his grandma when he was very young, had an overall lack of parenting. His dad was never there. His mom was apparently very abusive. And on top of that, he barely finished high school. Now his comeback is now. He's always been a fan of Cloud9. He now has a chance to actually prove himself at a couple tournaments, IVA Power Masters, as well as, of course, the Katowice Major. And I truly wish this guy the best of luck. An immaculate story, a really sad story as well. And he finally deserves his chance here, guys. Moving from Swole Patrol to Cloud9 as a temporary stand in his fifth. Also marked, though, Cloud9 Golden will remain on the roster until he is healthy. And then, of course, if Zellsis does work out well at the major or other tournaments, they'll have to actually make the choice between him and Golden in the future. Now, speaking of futures, though, for rosters, Swole Patrol really up in the air with who they're going to field in terms of rosters. I talked to Ryan at Rush B. They will retain their ESL Pro League spot because that retaining process kind of confuses me, but it will be Swole Patrol, of course. If you guys do not know, early on in MDL season, they lose Cooper. They have now reportedly lost FREAKAZOiD. Of course, Ace, his contract expired. He went back to United. And on top of that, guys, of course, losing Zellsis. They were left with Swag and Marky and apparently going to field Vanity and Food from Team Singularity. So they do have a four-man roster pretty much confirmed by Ryan at Rush B Media, and they will retain that ESL Pro League spot. But what would this roster do, though? That's, of course, like I said previously, up in the air. But I do want to touch on one last thing, guys. Swole Patrol will have their ESL Pro League spot. Will they retain that spot? That's a giant question for the future. But it was actually Zellsis before he is confirmed, or when he was confirmed leaving for Cloud9. He did confirm a huge thing out there. Like I said previously, FREAKAZOiD leaving, that being Swole Patrol for Ghost Gaming. You know, he called it out in a Betway interview or Betway post. He said, "Do you guys know something before I do?" It's pretty much been confirmed he was trolling because Zellsis has confirmed itself, guys. FREAKAZOiD will be joining Ghost Gaming.
What even happened to Freak? He's going to Ghost.
So honestly, it's a really cool story. I already tweeted about this. I don't mean to say that Swole Patrol is dead. They're certainly going to be hurting, though, at least for the first few weeks, because it's a brand new team for a brand new Pro League season. I wish them, of course, the best of luck. I'm going to be cheering for them. I still think one of the cooler teams out there. Also, according to Ryan, guys, they're in talks with organizations because currently they have no backing or no financial backing, that is. They are still in talks with organizations. And again, I cannot name a single team out there who participates in ESL Pro League who is not signed to an organization. So they will likely be signed sometime here very shortly. It's just really cool to see, though, all these players from Swole Patrol who have earned their way to Pro League are now earning their way back to better teams. Zellsis and FREAKAZOiD being one of them, and of course the future of these guys like Cooper as well. So 3 of the 5 starting roster formerly of this team has now earned a way to a better roster. It's really cool to see that kind of rise in CSGO. Now, speaking of rises, it's actually Refrezh potentially to be signed to OpTic Gaming in place of Nico, which I thought was a bit of a surprise, reported by Real Sport. I'll link their article down below for all of you guys. Of course, we all probably thought that OpTic eventually needed to make some changes. They've been a pretty stagnant roster. Of course, a top 20 team, right? Top 25 team consistently, not making any long runs, though. And again, not really being too impressive on paper, despite the fact that this roster on paper is still incredibly insane. Incredibly high skill caps, that is, and still a roster I think has a lot of potential, who have never really clicked, though, it seems, on the servers. It will potentially, though, be in Refrezh. Of course, his stand-in for Cloud9, just over 4 or 5 matches have impressed teams out there, one of them apparently being OpTic Gaming, and he's expected to replace Nico on that roster. Now, Nico is still a young, very talented player, but apparently not clicking with this roster. I don't think Refrezh is an automatic improvement. I think he's probably probably a better fit for the team, but in terms of skill cap, I don't think a better improvement. And I still will say, despite a lot of you guys being big fans of him, I like the guy. He seems like a very, very nice guy, and of course has a lot of potential based on the teams he has played so far on LAN, but he is still relatively unproven. He has only played on a top tier LAN, I think, one time, and that was with Cloud9 as a stand-in player, so he's still relatively inexperienced around that realm. Yes, he is a very talented player. Will he work out and actually solve OpTic's issues? I don't think so. I still do believe they need an established IGL, like many teams out there do, and until they get that around that team and actually have a solidified few months with it, I don't see much progress from OpTic Gaming. And speaking of teams who struggle with the IGL role, will Nico retain it? Will AdreN take it over? It does seem very, very close to the actual convincing, guys. It will be this morning. Apparently, it will be AdreN joining the Steam group for FaZe Clan of those 5 players. So it seems we're pretty much on the brink. Also, Nico saying, hey, is the trade lock today? It seems to be a bit of a troll / hint at them confirming that roster. It will likely be Gambit AdreN, guys. And again, we're not really sure exactly if he'll take the IGL role. Will Nico stick with it? Either way, though, in terms of replacing Kerrigan, I will stick with my argument for the time being. This does not feel like the FaZe Clan roster I expected a year ago, which, I mean, you don't really expect too many rosters even to stay together for an entire year, but despite that, though, it still baffles me. I really do. When it comes to replacing Kerrigan, it was going to be a hard time no matter what. He is obviously in the world right now top 5, if not debatably, like I said previously in prior episodes, a top 3 IGL. Replacing this guy would be incredibly difficult, and I think, though, of your options, they probably picked one of the best ones, that being AdreN. I still think Chris J would have been pretty much the perfected fit into this roster, but what do we know, right? We never know the future. So either way, guys, we're close to FaZe's 5th member. It should be AdreN from Gambit, and of course his experience, it does pray him well, and I hope these guys can actually work it out. Will this be the solution, though, for FaZe Clan? I don't know. There's many arguments out there. Maybe Nico should stick with the IGL, pick up a real firepower guy in place of maybe not an AdreN, maybe someone else out there. So again, what do you guys think about that, though? FaZe's new 5th should be AdreN. And also other teams out there struggling, and I don't mean to hate on these teams. I really do enjoy most CSGO teams out there, so I'm just trying to give my opinion in terms of sharing the news. So if you guys have a problem with that, feel free to leave a comment down below. Maybe I'm having a bad and negative day out there. It's actually ex-Space Soldiers who have the biggest shoes to fill of all time in terms of course, not being signed yet. We heard about their previous contract negotiations on of course, that being Space Soldiers. They were being heavily underpaid. Now they're not even being paid whatsoever. It's a tough boat to actually watch these guys float on, and on top of that, of course, losing to Xantares to Big Clan. It will be Yam, though, coming out of retirement. If you guys saw the post last week, he's actually moving to EU. He will be a free agent starting next year. He's continued on this post as well. So starting January 1st, guys, he'll be a free agent. But until after the major, he will compete alongside ex-Space Soldiers in the minor. And if they actually can make it out of that field so far, I highly doubt it. I'm being honest with you guys, just being straightforward. I highly doubt these guys can actually make it to the major qualifier. If they do, though, I am fully backing these guys up. Yam is going to officially relieve retirement, guys, and actually come back to CSGO. He'll be playing alongside ex-Space Soldiers until after their major run, and then he'll actually be a free agent to be picked up by anyone else out there. So I wish them the best of luck, but I'm not too hopeful for this roster so far. Big shoes to fill. And speaking of coming out of retirement, guys, our last 2 stories are about just that as well. Yam does it first. XMS also reportedly taking to Twitter to come back to CSGO. I really honestly thought he was a Fortnite pro. Kiyoshima did as well. I'm pretty sure he quit only a few months ago. It seems that we reported on this story, guys, and he's already coming back to CSGO, reportedly sometime 2019. Who he will sign with, again, a big question mark, but I'm really glad to see a young player like that, a talented player, promising player, come back alongside him. Of course, as well, if you guys did not hear Saturday, the official announcement, you guys got it correct. It will be Rickeh from Rogue, alongside that, of course, N0thing Gilbert coming back out of retirement to join the Complexity roster. I am so hyped up about this. Now, I was honest with you guys in my last episode. I'm not hyped up in the chance that they actually have a chance to make a good run. Them already being the legendary team they are, I do not think they really have a solid chance at this major with this roster. I'm just being honest with you guys. I would have loved to see a younger player besides Rickeh. I think he really puts a nail in the coffin to Rogue, but he's still a solid pickup. Alongside that, though, Jordan, a solid pickup, right? With his time with Mouse Sports as well as NRG, and of course his previous time with Cloud9, a very solid pickup for this roster. If he can compete at the same level he did with Mouse Sports when he stood in for them not too long ago, the only problem I have with this is it does not seem like a longevity move. According to both, it's actually Jason Lake and N0thing. I'll link his interview down below. It does not seem there's any commitment whatsoever. If of course he does well with the roster at the major, he may stick it out. But Jordan made it seem, in my opinion, you guys can watch the interview, that he is not here to stay for the long term with this roster, and that almost bothers me. But at the same time, I'm a big fan of his. I love him. He is just a genuine guy, but it's not a longevity move for Complexity, and therefore does not solve the issues. It seems like a big comeback. He gets a lot of sticker money, and will he stick it out though? It does not. He did not convince me that he actually wanted to stick it out for the long run. But either way though, we can look forward to heavily inflated N0thing stickers because he's just a really good guy. And on top of that, I hope you guys all enjoy. I will see you guys back here next year. I had to say it. I know that was super cheesy, but I do have a video planned for you guys tomorrow if I have time to finish it today. That will be the CSGO rewind of 2018, all the best moments throughout the entire year. And one last time, guys, just thank you all for the great support over the past 3 months. We have just gained so many subscribers, so many comments and likes through you guys, and I cannot thank you all enough. It's been an amazing year, and I really cross my fingers and hope for you guys, as well as, you know, selfishly myself, that 2019 is going to be an amazing year, and we can hopefully spend it together every morning, you know, on these videos, you know, through this weird intermedium, me talking through a glass screen to you. But as always, hope you guys all enjoy. Thank you all very much for an amazing year, and let's look forward to next year as well. And as always, my name is Jake. I'll see you then.